Hello, and welcome to the Infinite Love Podcast. This is a place where we share how love can transform negative emotions and pain into strength. We talk about all things related to love, positivity, and kindness. And I am your host, Carine Camara. Hi, welcome to episode 14 From Overwhelm to Self Care. Today, we are talking to Brody Welsh. She's a licensed acupuncturist, board certified herbalist, and a self care strategist. Brody helps self aware, high achieving women break the cycle of stress, overwhelm, and self sabotage so they can enjoy the lives they're working so hard to create and truly embody self respect. She loves helping people recognize their power, what they can do every day to influence how they feel. She is passionate about helping people optimize their health and evolving their consciousness so they can express who they really are and show up for their work in the world and the people they love. A lifelong student of consciousness, Brody has been practicing meditation, yoga, and Qigong for over 20 years and holds teaching certifications in each of these disciplines. She synthesizes ancient techniques from Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and yoga with the latest research in neuroscience, functional medicine, and habit change to help her clients thrive. She's the founder of Life in Balance Acupuncture in Oregon, and she's the creator and host of A Healthy Curiosity, the podcast that explores what it takes to be well in a busy world. And let's get into today's episode. Hi, welcome, Brody. It's so great to have you on the Infinite Love podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. It's great to be here.
Nice. So, I love to start the conversation with what is your love lesson? And a love lesson is essentially something that happened in your life, an experience, a pain point that brought you to your knees, that made you come to a place of self realization and transformation. And in through that transformation, you decided to use what you've learned to then help teach others.
Oh, that's a really potent place to start because often those most painful lessons are the fodder for transformation.
Yeah.
And for me, that was certainly true. So as a teenager, I think I I was I was maybe gifted with some fairly precocious and angsty genes that caused me to be entirely too reflective on the world and my place in it at an early age. And really, I grew up in the suburbs of Boston, and I was in this middle class community and looking at like environmental degradation, like I can't do my life without getting in a car, or like participating in a completely unsustainable system. I was really concerned about the state of the earth. I was also concerned about homelessness and hunger, and like these things that were really apparent, just walking around Boston. And so i felt like I felt like in order to be in integrity with myself, I needed to have my actions aligned with my values each and every day, or I was just breathing other people's air and I might as well kill myself. So,
Mm.
as a teenager, really feeling the weight of the world and feeling like it was this binary, like I either need to be part of the solution or I'm part of the problem, so much so that I don't even have a right to exist. And so it's like I was an athlete, I was a musician, I had a job, and it's like all of that stuff I like tried to keep going while at the same time having this like social service and activism be kind of the foundation of really where I felt like I derived any sense of self-worth, was like in this giving to others or trying to make the world a better place. And it was to the point where that I was getting 3 hours of sleep a night at age 15, and
Oh my
that kind
gosh.
of that it was really untenable. It was really that like I didn't feel like I had the right to exist, much less enjoy my life, while there was so much injustice and real problems. And so that weighed on me really heavily. And it wasn't until I think discovering, sort of like having a bit of a spiritual awakening, that we're not just what we do, that there's more to us than the sum of our actions, that there's
Right.
also this spiritual dimension of who we are and our presence that's equally valuable, but I never felt like I could value it because I didn't feel like my worth was connected to it. I felt like my
Mm,
self-worth was completely connected to this doing and serving, and it was causing me to live in this complete state of depletion, even when at a time in my life when I was supposed to have all this abundant reserve energy that the
right.
teenagers are supposed to have. And so I realized really quickly that sort of as I was continuing in college to kind of aim at being involved in social justice or in kind of crusading for the world that I wanted to create, realizing that that was not going to set me up for a life I was going to enjoy. And so realizing that I really needed to change course and come up with another plan. And that is fortunately where I was like, all right, I'm just going to opt out, even though it just after finishing college, decided to go to massage therapy school because I'd always been told that I had a healing touch, just to bide myself time to figure out what it was that I really wanted to do. And thankfully, in massage school, I fell in love with shiatsu, or not the practice, but the theory underlying shiatsu, which is the
Mm-hmm.
theory that Chinese medicine is rooted in. And that is things like yin and yang and microcosm, macrocosm, like if it's out there, it's in here. And that these sort of the ways that these different energies of the five elements are at play in our lives. And I fell in love with the theory. I knew that that was my next step. And so went on to do my master's in Chinese medicine and opened my practice 17 years ago. So it really
Mm-hmm.
just set me on a journey of like, okay, there is, and because Chinese medicine, why it resonated so deeply is this yin yang concept.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's familiar with that yin yang symbol,
Right.
and that idea that if we live in a society that only prioritizes the doing and the externals, and that how much we're able to produce and get done in a day at the expense of the inward, the soul, the body, the rest, the rejuvenation, that's inherently out of balance. And so it just like what I saw in Chinese medicine was the permission to be and the permission to honor and value the beingness, not just my very capable doingness that had always been prized. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just really felt like that what came out of that love lesson for me was that I want everyone to take care of themselves regardless of their ability to deliver value for others in the marketplace, or to take care of their family members. It's like, yeah, all of those things are good, and I want, like I love getting things done. I have ambition and drive and want to do things. I have people in my life that I want to take care of, but recognizing that if I'm doing that and excluding myself from that equation, that I'm setting myself up for depletion and resentment and all kinds of dis-ease.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It is so fundamental that we take care of ourselves, and we don't take care of ourselves enough, especially when we're sensitive, like you are and I am. Growing up, having those feelings about the world at such a young age really indicates that you're a sensitive, conscious person, and that you require more self care than the average person because you're holding on to
Oh,
so much.
I think that's an important point, right? Like that what we all need depends on who we are. So
Right.
different self-care practices might be more important for each of us depending on how we're built, right? The
Mm-hmm.
innate gifts that we came in with, which can also undermine us if we don't necessarily recognize that. And so there is there is this idea, I think, that we need to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves, but being able to
Mm-hmm.
really identify what that looks like may
Right.
be different for each of us. And I really like to distinguish between sort of self-care. I really almost hate that phrasing these days because it conjures up these images of pedicures and vacations. And it's like those
Mm-hmm.
things are lovely and wonderful, and I love them, but they're exceptional. They're not the day-to-day of how we live our lives. And so it really is how we take care of ourselves from moment to moment and from day to day that adds up, that is the biggest lever we have over how we end up feeling.
Absolutely, and that's so true. I often would think about self care as getting a manicure, getting a massage, but really self care is, for me at this point, is like, did I drink a glass of water when I woke up to help my liver
Yes.
get going? Like thinking about the little things I do to take care of my body every day, which is so important. And that's how you work with people as a coach, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So just that there so much of that is helping people recognize what the fundamental basics are, right? Things like hydration, nourishment, sleep,
Mm-hmm.
exercise, dealing with stress, opting out of stress entirely if we can shift our mindset. That there's certain kind of core nutrients that we all need, and we all might need them in different amounts. Just like we all can't eat the same diet, right? Or that different foods affect us differently depending on who we are. So too, I think are they sort of can be some of these self care practices, and yet we all need a certain balance of nutrients in our lives. So I like to help people automate their morning routines and their evening routines to set themselves up for feeling their best and being able to not only like hit those basics like
Mm-hmm.
hydration and rest and um, mindfulness and self study and all that, but also be able so to kind of like tick those boxes and do it efficiently to free up energy for the stuff that really matters, because it's like, while in practicing Chinese medicine and kind of coaching from that framework, yes, it's all about balance, but in and of itself, that's not the goal, right? We're here
Right.
to give our gifts to the world. We're here to connect. We're here to make magic happen. And and really, we free up so much bandwidth for presence and for productivity when we don't have to think about, when am I going to meditate today? How am I going to exercise? What's for
Mm-hmm.
lunch? Like that. It's like if we create a certain amount of structure, that actually paradoxically, maybe not so paradoxically, engenders freedom, and that
Mm-hmm.
and it allows us to really hone in on the important stuff.
I agree. That's why I have a uniform in terms of clothing. Like
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I wear like in the summer I wear dresses, in the winter I wear leggings and a top, and all my colors match, so I never have to think too much about what I'm gonna wear. Like I just boop 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 boop, super
Beautiful. So you're
fast.
preserving your mental bandwidth. Every time you ping your brain, right, it's depleting. And so yeah, why not just streamline that? Because ultimately, yeah, like the less you have to think about getting ready for your day, that energy is allowed to go elsewhere.
Exactly. That's why when I was little, I wanted to go to Catholic school so I can wear a uniform. Like,
Nice.
I just like getting up, wearing the same thing, going out. It just makes for that routine, like just creating that routine in your life gives me so much freedom. I'm just like, oh, I don't have to think about
Exactly. And so just and this isn't about becoming robots, but the fact that 40% of our day is determined by habit without our conscious thought.
it. Right.
So our habits are going to run us anyway, and if we can actually get into programming and setting ourselves up at that foundational subconscious happens without thinking level, just like brushing our teeth or taking a shower, whatever you're already doing in the morning, it's like, wouldn't it be great if breathing and meditation and exercise and healthy nourishment was a part of that plan, and it was just a given that's what how you take care of yourself, just like brushing your teeth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And how do you use, since we're both Chinese medicine practitioners, like how do
Yeah.
you use Chinese medicine in with your clients? Do you have people go along the organ hour, like the different seasons? Like how do you infuse Chinese medicine in the work that you do?
So I think first of all, for the people who may not be super familiar with Chinese medicine, that recognizing it's not just acupuncture, it's not just
Mm-hmm.
herbs. There's actually all these branches of the medicine, and at its core, Chinese medicine is actually applied philosophy. So every action that we take can either be steering us in the direction of health and balance or taking us away from that. And if we think about, like, for most of us, in order to I like, first of all, introducing people to the yin yang symbol and recognizing that in our culture we are yang addicted. We are addicted to the speed, the productivity, the how it looks
Mm-hmm.
instead of how it feels, the getting it done in less time, the and just this consumption, and it just the so much of how our culture is wired is on this doing, producing, and externals. And so getting people to first of all realize, like I did, that there's more to us than just what we can do, right? There's this whole yin being aspect, and that the more we lean into that, it actually engenders more powerful yang. So for a lot of people, especially like the high achieving, self-aware people that I tend to work with, it's about, like, first of all, helping them recognizing when they might be biting the hook of yang addiction, because that causes us to go into, like, to override, our body's needs to, like, hydrate, pee, eat, do much less, like, than do anything else that we might actually enjoy. for fear of the productivity police arresting us, and recognizing that our self-worth is not predicated on that, and that actually that sort of like having these, like honoring our yin is how I think of it, and honoring our yin, honoring our bodies, honoring our heart's desires, making sure those things are prioritized in our life is probably the first thing that I do. The second thing that I do is introduce people to, in Chinese medicine, we have these conceptions of that if it's out there in the natural world, it also exists in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that these different energetics of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, the five elements, are also active and at play within us. And so helping people see that when we are acting, when we are allowing one of those energies to maybe dominate over the others, often in a way that we believe that we need to do in order to survive. This is maybe a pattern set early in life that we might have needed in order to survive our upbringing, or like whatever well-meaning caregivers we had early on. What that all of us have kind of survival strategies that make us feel safe in the world. And the thing is that most of the time our lives aren't actually being threatened. What's being threatened is who we think we need to be in order to be safe. Right. So, for example, one of those survival strategies is perfectionism. Another could be people pleasing or overachieving. And so, helping people see that, okay, like the metal, like the, oh, I need to be like this, I need to be perfect, I need to be rigid, or it's worthless, right? That's looking at the world in a very metal way, versus that the people who just give till it hurts, that and don't believe that they can give to themselves, that can be maybe an earth element survival strategy, and it's also not the truth of who that person is. Or a wood survival strategy being that, like, I'm just going to do more and achieve more and be this bright shiny star, and therefore I'll be safe because I'll be special. And recognizing that, like, actually you don't need to do those things at all. It might make you feel more secure, but it's a trap. And so recognizing, helping people see themselves through the lens of Chinese medicine, so that we can see when one of these energies is dominating and what we can do to maybe counteract that. So a lot of it is really education, and like this notion of sort of the doctor as teacher, and so helping people really see their own tendencies so that we don't have to be bound by them is profoundly freeing. Not only because like sort of being in perpetual survival mode means that we're likely spending way more time in fight, flight, freeze than we would, or like than we should ordinarily. Ideally, we only kind of go into that sympathetic nervous system activation mode when our life is literally at stake, and not because we have a deadline or because the house isn't clean and people are coming over. Well, actually, probably that's an outdated reference in the age of COVID, but you get my meaning, right? That this idea that
Right.
something terrible is going to happen unless dot dot dot, and
Right.
and so recognizing that, like, oh right, that's just an old thought pattern. That's actually an imbalance. And so being able to help people see that if your whole sense of who you are is just wedged into this one tiny slice of the pie of all it is, that's limiting your potential. And that when people unhook from stress, we can relax into our potential. When we're operating from a place of stress, we're necessarily contracted. We're necessarily going to our go-to survival strategies, which means that we're not operating from our full human potential. We're not
Right.
able to be in our hearts. We're not able to connect with others in a loving way, or it's much more difficult.
Sure.
And we're not necessarily able to self-actualize, or like kind of play with all of the different colors of our palette that we innately came in with. And so helping people see that the connection between health and also our potential of who we could be and how we can evolve. I think Chinese medicine has so much to say about that, because there is no separation between body and mind and spirit in Chinese medicine. It's all just
It's all
qi,
one.
right? And it's ways that we subdivide this qi and talk about it into yin and yang, or the different organ systems in the body, and helping people see, oh right, this is where I'm leaning too hard into this element rather than this one. This is where my liver chi is stagnating, which is kind of our code name for stress, like anytime that our nervous system gets hijacked.
Right.
And therefore, like the solutions that are inherently in there, Chinese medicine has this long tradition, as you well know, of nourishing life, right? Doing things that actually are amplifying what we call the righteous chi, like the stuff that's working, the stuff that is
Mm-hmm.
that has the potential for thriving within us. And so helping people value themselves, helping people see what they've got going on, like whatever is taking them out of balance, is likely also their greatest gift. And helping people being able to see that like there's nothing wrong with them. They're just maybe overplaying their hand in this way that was set way back when we were kids, and we felt like all we needed to do was survive. But the things that help us survive are really different than the things that help us thrive. So, as a coach working from a Chinese medicine framework, I like to introduce people to these concepts, amplify what is right with them, help them value what's going on in themselves, and also help them see that they don't have to be limited by those past patterns, and also introduce them to a certain amount of habit change science and neuroscience about how we can kind of detach from those outdated beliefs and how we can automate these simple habits of embodying self-respect that we need in order to feel great and give our gifts to the world.
That's wonderful. And it's so true. Like this, just being able to shift your mindset from that negative space to a positive space and shift those perspective. I liked when you said your greatest pain essentially could be your greatest gift that you're able to offer to others. And that's
Yeah,
pretty much the
absolutely.
premise of this whole show, is to showcase that.
It's a beautiful episode after episode example of this very thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because for me it's been such a mind switch, like understanding that our pain can actually be our gift and to not look at it as something to fight with. Because so many of us spend
Absolutely.
so much time fighting against that part of ourselves that's painful, that we want to change, that we don't feel that's good enough, etc., etc. Fill in the blank with a negative emotion, where
Yes.
that whole experience could be something completely, totally different, and is here for you, or for me, or for whoever. It's there as an opportunity, as opposed to
Oh yeah.
something happening to you.
Yeah, it's a great sort of judo framing, right? Of this very thing that we might be most ashamed of, that we might be
Right.
most tempted to hide or paper over, and really pulling it out of the shadows. That's scary. That takes work. It
A
takes
lot.
courage, and it is not easy. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it can be really helpful to have support and help on this
Mm.
path, and to be held and seen with compassion and love, and with someone that can help us see and have that same compassion for ourselves, that like, yeah, this isn't wrong, this doesn't make you a bad person, it is something that like that when once we see it and we can hold it with compassion and with love, that's when we're able to own it and take it on as a strength. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, that I'm a recovering young addict, and I help other, that just my own addiction to doing and to doing more. It's like I'm still, after, how old am I, years on the planet, thinking that is where my worth comes from, being able to help other people see that that's actually not true, and to like opt out of that mindset and to break up
Mm.
with stress entirely. It's something that like I couldn't do that if I didn't have the life experiences that I've
Right.
had, and
Right.
helping people, coming from that place of like literally didn't not feeling like I had the right to exist unless I was being in service to others, to a place where I'm able to help people recognize that we all have the right to be at the top of our own to-do list, and it's not selfish. It's actually our
Mm-hmm.
birthright to be able to care for ourselves the way that you would want your best friend or your sibling to take care of themselves. And so
Right.
and really, it's like that is hard one lesson for me. And so when I'm working with my clients, it's like I get it at a deep level what it's like to not feel like it's okay to just be a person, to just like sit on the couch and read a book, or that just the basic simple things in life have to be earned, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really it. So yeah, if I can help other people truly practice self-respect and self-love day in and day out, in a way where they can honor their yin as well as their yang, then it's I feel like that early pain that I had has some meaning.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the main goals in life, I think, for me, is to getting to that place of understanding that my pain is specific to me, but it's a shared experience with hundreds of thousands of people. And that's why I think it's so important that people like you and me and multiple millions of other people are doing this work, because we can help our people. Like, there are people out there that are listening to this are like, oh my God, I definitely need Brody's work. I definitely need, there's so many facets of healing, and so many, all the practitioners have usually gone through some kind of healing, something within themselves, and that's what they can offer their people.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so much of it is about resonance, like that.
Right.
Yeah, and just whoever and however we're able to feel supported and met. It's really important.
Yeah, it's a hard journey uncovering all these, unpacking your pain and creating new habits and new rituals, and it's really nice to have somebody to hold your hand and support you in that way with a non-judgmental, compassionate space.
I don't know how people do it alone, frankly, because we get so much cultural reinforcement for overriding our boundaries, especially as women. That
Yeah.
I see that, women are constantly incentivized for being selfless, right? And not to mention the fact that if we have a job, right, we're likely being paid far less than the guy sitting next to us, even more so if you're a woman of color. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, it's so capitalism, white supremacy, patriarchy, all of these things incentivize women to kind of put themselves last in order to get ahead or to survive in the system that's set up for us. And it's the kind of thing where it's so yeah, like there's a lot of cultural reinforcement and reward that we can get from just pushing harder and put your head down and just don't care about your body and don't listen to your heart and just kind of like see how far you can get on this ladder, like that is not necessarily set up for human thriving.
No,
And
and
so it
then
takes
yeah, and often
yeah,
those are the women that get autoimmune disorders and chronic fatigue and lupus and
absolutely
thyroid
right.
issues. I mean, it goes
At
on
a
and on.
so much more can go awry in a woman's body, and we do see, yeah, rates of autoimmunity way higher,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, issues with fertility,
Right.
even like I mean really chronic, that kind of being in survival mode all the time, right? We're chronically stressing the HPA axis. It's going to have consequences for our hormones, for our digestive systems, for our immune systems, for our ability to go to sleep at night, for our ability to have good energy, to not feel pain in our bodies. It's like the stakes are high, but it's a lot of times like we are socialized to just bear that cost internally instead of actually first of all recognizing that we can still thrive as productive achievers in this system when we honor the yin, when we kind of lean into that paradox, that it's sort of this outdated, almost hyper masculine notion that we should just sort of suck it up and deal and like work harder and chain ourselves to our computers and all that's actually not it's actually not the safest and easiest path to get there. So helping people see that that's actually it's a thought form that is kind of like an unkind and hyper masculine way of seeing the world, and that when we honor yin, when we kind of like are in touch with the rhythms of what our bodies need, even just from moment to moment, like I'm thirsty, I'd like some water now please, right? That if some dude were standing over me and saying like, are you serious right now? Like you can't get up and take a break until you finish this email, like you're lazy. If someone said that to me, especially if it were a guy, I would likely respond not too kindly to that. I would likely stand up for myself and tell him off. But if that voice is coming from my own head, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, you're totally right. What am I even thinking? Having joy or having time for myself. It's much easier. It's like I've internalized that sort of oppressive voice. And so therefore, I think it's really important to band together with people who have a different vision,
Mm-hmm.
because the only way to fight kind of a dominant culture is with a counterculture. And it's the way that things like spiritual groups, church groups, support groups like Alcoholics Anonymous and all of the other 12-step programs, it's like what they have in common is that there's other people walking the path, there's other
Right.
people who are in it too, and who share a similar worldview and believe that transformation is possible. And that's a lot of times like that's what I've tried to do with my coaching clients when I used to bring people together in community to do this
Nice.
work of habit change and all that. But even just having one person, right, your coach, your practitioner, whoever, who believes that you can do it and holds out another vision for what's possible. When you truly opt out of this mindset, when you truly start embodying self-respect for real and self-love on this deeper level of what might be possible, because it is really, we have so much evidence that we can look at for like why you shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So let's get into the infinite love questions.
Sure.
Let's pull them up here. So, how do you use love in the work that you do?
That is a deep question, and I've been thinking about it. First of all, um, I I unconditionally love the people that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to, first of all, see them as whole and not like there's something wrong with them and I have the answers to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to see, to really truly see the wholeness, um, if divinity is a word that resonates, it might be that too. But this sense that there's nothing that like this person has everything that they need right already,
Right.
and it's just a matter of a matter of amplifying something different and allowing someone to take the smallest step in the direction um, of what's medicine for them. So just holding out a sense of that they are already whole and that they are all, that there's nothing wrong, and being able to listen with compassion and hold them from a place of love. It's like there's lots of ways, and it can be tough love. Like I've got smart strategy in my toolbox too, but it's like all of that. If somebody doesn't get that they're really cared for, they're not going to feel safe enough to open up about what's real, to admit where they're struggling. And so I think that just it's a powerful container to be able to help someone show up authentically. And that's another thing is really rewarding people for their courage of being vulnerable and sharing what's real, rather than shaming them for it, or making them feel like it's like it's this binary, you're either succeeding or failing. Helping people see their own progress, right? A lot of times when people are trying to learn how to meditate, or they're trying to eat better, but then something stressful happens and they blow it off, or they binge on sugar or something like that, helping them see like, oh yeah, but you did that once this week instead of 5 times this week. Just that, helping people sort of change their own thinking so that they're able to give themselves credit where credit is due, is another big part of how I work with people.
Nice. How do you feel that your work is used to uplift humanity?
Well, I believe that, just like in Chinese medicine believes, right, that there is no such thing as a separate entity. We're all connected. We're all in this big ecosystem. So just like our organs interplay with each other and each cell communicates with each other in this symphony that the heart is conducting within, that it's like we are ourselves ecosystems, but we're also connected to the people in our lives and to the culture and to like the media that we consume. All of this stuff is part of this ecosystem that we all sort of are sharing. And so when I encourage someone to be more loving and kind to themselves, to take a stand for embodying self respect, that person is part of shifting the culture at large to being one that is more honoring of humanity, and one that is more, like, frankly, humane, right? In the truest sense of the word. And so, really, I believe that sort of like in that being the change that we wish to see in the world, that as I empower other people to take that stand for themselves, that is how we create a different set of norms that the next generation will see as better than running ourselves into the ground in
Mm-hmm.
service of yeah, of whatever production. And so hopefully that is part of how we evolve humanity into something that's more compassionate. And in general, it's sort of also seeing our the way that we're connected to these systems, and like so trying to make any community that I'm a part of, encouraging people to have that same kindness and respect for each other and for themselves, because we are all in this together, and
Yeah,
being able to kind of take a stand for each other.
I love it. What do you love most about your life?
I deeply love the people in my life, and I am incredibly grateful that I am able to connect with them. So yeah, it's all about the connections that come alive with people, including my clients. And I love having the freedom to structure my day such that I can show up with the best energy for the people that I love and not deplete myself.
Nice. That's important.
I also, if I can throw this in, I also love the fact that I live 10 minutes from a trailhead, so I can be out in nature medicine at any point in time. Do not necessarily love that nature is in Oregon where it rains 9 months of the year, but connection to nature is very important to me, and I deeply love that about my life.
Yes, I agree. How do you feel you receive love?
Oh, I receive love so much better when I'm in the mindset of when I can get out of self judgment.
Mm,
So if I'm in self judgment, it doesn't matter what anyone says to me or does for me. Um, there's a barrier, and when I can take down that judgment, I can receive it in all sorts of ways, right? From clients expressing their gratitude, or friends sending me a text, or my husband rubbing my shoulders. Like it can be like all of the love languages that exist out there are blocked by self-judgment. And so I think just eliminating that allows the love to come in
yeah,
lots
it's a
of
good one.
myriad ways.
Yeah. When do you feel the most love?
When do I feel the most love? This is also connecting. I think usually it's it's things like this past weekend being out in the woods with friends and my husband, hiking, and being and just even just being in silence or having a conversation where about something that matters. Being able to share what's real, and being
Hmm.
able to spend that quality time. That to me means a lot, right? Because that time is a finite resource, and
Yeah,
what we give our time to matters. And so when someone's giving their time to me, and really showing up for it, in a way that, without any distractions, that feels like the biggest gift I could possibly receive.
nice. And last question is, where do you feel that love has created a miracle in your life?
I think this is kind of on a different tack, but love created a miracle for me when I had been through a divorce. I had been through heartbreak. I was not sure. I was dating the person who I'm now married to, who had kids. His wife had died of cancer a year
Oh my gosh.
before, and he had an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I
Mm,
had never been the kind of person who envisioned being a mother. I had a well established Chinese medicine practice and coaching practice. I did plenty of nurturing, thank you very much. And I did not want to add 2 kids to the mix. And love created a miracle for me when I realized that these particular individuals were people that I could see connecting to and being a family for, and
mm,
being able to like, first of all, to overcome the past pain enough so that barrier went away, so that I was able to really fall in love and take away that preconception of what it means to be a parent. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know that I can sign up for being a mom, but I can sign up for being a positive, sort of sane adult female role model. Like, yeah, I could do
sure.
that. And so and that was um, we got married in 2012. And yeah, and so it's like something that I never thought I would have wanted for myself, which I actively avoided, that was actively on my deal breaker list, and ended up being a life that I do truly love, with these children who are now young adults, young people who I deeply love, and with a guy who yeah, would have been a fling if were it not for kind of love waking me up to the potential of what my life could be, and like, what did I think I was looking for that wasn't right there.
I love that. That is a beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think it's such an important part of adulting is learning how to take care of yourself. I think that's been
Oh yeah, and one that we're
most of my
not really
30s.
prepared for with the education most of us receive growing up. So yeah, it is a process, and one that is really helpful to have support as we do it, and giving ourselves the freedom to not do it perfectly, because that's not
Right.
what it's about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to connect with you and your wonderful podcast. And
Thank you.
I think that really the world always can benefit from more love and more people tapping into their own capacity to love.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, how can people find you if they want to work with you? What's the best way to keep in contact with you?
I'm at brodywelch.com, Brody with an IE and Welch with a CH. And I have a podcast called A Healthy Curiosity on being well in a
Nice.
busy world.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Brody, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure learning about the importance of self care and how you infuse Chinese medicine. It's such an interesting way of looking at the medicine that even I appreciate, even as an acupuncturist, to learn how other people use the medicine in the work that they do. So, thank you for
Isn't that
sharing.
fun? I love connecting with other practitioners. And thanks again for the invitation. And to all of you listening, may you love and honor yourself the way that you would want anyone in your life who you care about to take care of themselves. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you. Sending you lots of love. Bye.
Lots of love back.
Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and tune in on Tuesdays for new episodes. For more information about me, please follow me on Instagram at Carine J. Camara and my website, carinecamara.com. Sending you lots of infinite love.